Good morning to you. This is Brigid Burke with Morning Coffee with Brigid. And we are at Samhain. We are at the last day of October, or Halloween as it's more commonly referred by a lot of people. So yeah, we are at the last day of October. And good morning, Melissa. And good morning, Pat. And let's see who else who joins us. Good morning, and afternoon, Sam. Yeah, I've just, as per usual, I'm kind of scrambling here. Good morning, Leela. And yes, happy Halloween, she says. Yeah, I was just saying happy Halloween, happy Samhain, Day of the Dead. Yep, there you go, covering all, Dias de los Muertos. Yeah, we've got all of these things that are today. And, yeah, and good morning, Joanne, and happy Samhain, happy Halloween. Yep, happy Halloween, Leela. I will be posting probably something about that at some point today. And yeah, it's an interesting Samhain because we also have it's also Diwali today, right? That's a good point. Yes. So right, it's Diwali, and it's also in addition to that, it's also this is the last day of the dark moon. It's like literally the new moon is tomorrow. Okay. So yeah, this is kind of like it's a real day of, well, Diwali is more like a new beginning. I think it's almost more like a new year, like a new beginning. But we're at this threshold place. We're talking a lot about thresholds. We're definitely on a threshold right now between the old and the new. And I think we really are substantially with the Scorpio new moon that's coming in. That's actually got quite a nice energy to it. That's moving us into a new space. Everything that I got this morning basically was referring to, I got the good morning, coming to you live from my blanket fort, Samhain and everything, blessings, yes. It's a good place to be, Joanne. Yeah, I'm happy because today is, as Melissa knows, I'll be going to see her this morning, and I'm very excited about that because it'll be a nice. And good morning, Sudha, and happy Halloween, Samhain, Diwali, everything. Like I said, Dios de los Muertos, everything. So we are here today, and it is most definitely this is definitely a day of endings, and so I feel like this is a day. People who do Samhain work. I don't know that today is particularly. It's more of a day of releasing, kind of like you would if you were doing something for the waning moon. It's more of a day of releasing, and that is kind of that was the energy I got. But the continuing message I got this morning, because as if you know my routine, you know that I get up and I do my grounding, I do my centering, and then I, have my little morning coffee with Brigid's guides, and they were basically saying. Yes, all the things. We have. It's very much. My brain is not working. I need a sip of coffee. We're definitely at this point of ending, and I feel like a lot of this is more about letting go. The rune that kept coming up this morning, actually in two different places. I got the word from Azrael. I got the word Moz. And from the Morrigan, I had the rune Wunja, and those both mean joy. Those both mean coming into joy. And I was seeing something about somewhere in the next 6 to 8 days, like the mystery of the windows being opened. Like there's something changing that's going to be visible to people. Because right now it just seems like okay, it's going to change, right? But remember, this is the last day. If we want to talk about the broader astrology, I'm sure there's still some things unfolding, and there's still going to be some things that are ending as we get through the end of the year. And good morning, Alex. And yes, and just, I'm glad that when you came on, it reminded me, I do have some messages from you, and I apologize, I didn't get to finish answering those last night because once I had my video, I was exhausted and I fell asleep. So I will answer those this morning. So yeah, and happy Halloween to you, happy Samhain. It's today. I just feel like it's kind of a take it easy kind of day for people, and any kind of work that we do should be around releasing. Mainly, the thing that needs to be released, at least according to what my guides have said, is control. The thing control, comparison. Oh, no worries. I I feel like I had a wild sleep. Yeah, I know I had some visions and things in my sleep last night, but I feel like today, I can only vaguely remember what they were, because I feel like they happened rather early in the night. They weren't ones that happened like just before I woke up. So there was some stuff that had kind of come into me last night, and I was like, oh, okay, this was something I wanted to know about, and then, I did not follow my own advice and get up and write it down. Visions and nightmares for 3 nights straight. Wow. Yeah, there's stuff coming in, and I suppose both the pleasant and the unpleasant. There has been a lot of runes lately around, like Hoggle and things like that had a lot to do with these disruptions. But I feel like when we had last night's class, which I think everybody, well, not everybody here, but I think everybody who participated in the class, most people who did, except for 2 people, are on this live feed this morning. And yeah, so I talked about Hecate, Persephone, and life cycle initiations and feminine rituals and more natural initiations that occur with the feminine, and with Persephone as representing that initial kind of introduction into the mystery of womanhood, with Hecate as being more of the guide, the guide figure, who doesn't necessarily fit into, we always try to put the maiden mother crone thing, right? And we try to put Hecate as the crone. But I don't think she neatly fits into the crone category. I don't really think of her that way. I just think of her as kind of this timeless, she's outside of time, and therefore that's another reason she's a figure of initiation, because initiation takes place outside of time. So she's kind of this timeless figure who represents this energy. She's the gatekeeper. She's the keeper of the keys for all these different things. So that would be her association, particularly with a night like tonight, where we are starting a new year. And so there's this idea of letting go and coming into joy. And of course, what does that even mean to come into joy, right? Joy is something that we feel, but liminal makes a lot more sense now when it comes to Hecate. Okay, yeah, yes, because Alex, you were in the class last night. Yeah, there's definitely this sense of being on that threshold and being the gatekeeper who stops and says, I was doing the Monty Python joke, you must answer me these questions 3. But it's just that point at which you are you are about to cross a bridge, and but not only is this person the one who tests you, but also the one who will in the end guide you as well. But your commitment is often tested to that, right? And I think a lot of people here know that. Now, yeah, I was thinking about what it means to come into joy, right? And what does it mean to be joyful? And it's funny that we even have to really think about it, because I don't think joy is something that can be evaluated monthly. Yeah, you were talking about that. It's joy. It's that when we come into joy, it's something. I think true joy is not something that has anything to do with any particular goal or achievement per se. It's not about or about getting something. Like, think about like the Christmas morning thing, where if you wanted a particular, like you were a kid and you wanted a particular toy or something, and then you got the toy, right? Well, then once you got the toy, it was just like there's a moment of joy when you open something, when you have something, and then it goes away. Joy is something that's not so much about the ups and downs. Because we always have emotional ups and downs. And when we have an emotional up, it's almost like a drug. It's like a high you want to maintain, right? It's like, I need to be happy all the time now. I need to feel exactly this way all the time. But oftentimes it's something that flows. It comes in and out of our lives. And we need to appreciate the moment, but not try to hang on to it too tightly. Because then, like a lot of these kinds of things, you kill it, right? You kill it by hanging on to it too tightly. So joy really just seems to be more of a state. It has more to do with a state of being, I think, regardless of what's going on in the outside world. Because joy has to do with what, where we are inside of ourselves. Because there's always going to be a drama in the world. There's always going to be stuff circling around us. There's always going to be, we're going to be able to, if you made a list, okay, sometimes people will tell you to make that list, make the gratitude list, right? Let's talk about, you might make a list of all the negative things going on But if you were also asked to make a list of all the positive things going on in your life, at least subjectively from your point of view, sometimes people have a hard time thinking of positive things because they're only focused on the negative. Sometimes you need other people to remind you what the positive things are in your life. But it's not even so much about comparing positive and negatives, because joy is something, it's like recognizing that there's this stuff going on. I'm in a role-playing game, and here are all the pieces, right? This is my character, and this is what the character's advantages are. This is what the character's disadvantages are. I mean, to really take a distance from it, right? But taking that distance, it's sort of like recognizing that you're an actor. You're playing a role. And that the being that you are is something that's very profound. And and the joy comes out of that space when you connect to that space. And again, we all have things that we identify in the world, but I think the key there is not that we have to abdicate our responsibilities or walk away from them, but recognize that they're a game that's being played. We're in a game with lots of other people. And people often forget that you're playing a particular game. They want you to stay in character or to do a certain thing. And again, when we talked about initiations last night, we talked about how in the first part of life, oftentimes what we're doing is we're trying to establish our social identity. First, we're establishing ourselves as individuals, right? How we are separate from our family, say. I mentioned the teen angst thing, This is object relations theory. You kind of get into this space where, your parents are icky and you don't want to be seen with them. Like, the game of archetypes. There's definitely an archetypal quality to it. In how it's being activated. The initiation piece is definitely archetypal, because you are encountering the archetype when you are going through an initiatory ordeal of any type, and even a natural initiation, even as we explained, coming into menarche for a woman, or different things where there's not just a physical change, there's not just the physical process that starts happening, but there's a whole lot of emotional stuff around it too. One thing I didn't mention last night was I mentioned my menarche experience to people here, when I just literally, 1 minute you're playing with dolls, the next minute you've grown a pair and you're interested in boys, right? And all the other stuff begins, and I literally almost felt like I was cheated. Like it was like you're dragged away from it. But I remember after that, I went into a rather profound depression. Not one that required any kind of medication or anything, because they didn't. Because it was funny, because I remember at school they were talking to my mother about it, and my mother like I said, before my brother died, she was actually quite a sensible person in a lot of ways, in terms of how she managed things. And I remember her telling them, she's like, there's nothing wrong with her. This is just part of growing up. This is just this is just where she's at right now. And she'd seen it with I had two other sisters who were older than me. She's like, I've seen this before. Like, this is just what happens, But a lot of times, if we don't know what's happening, that's when we freak out. We say, we feel lost, we feel adrift. And if the people around us are overanalyzing and trying to over-control these processes to try to make them something that they're not, I think that's problematic. I think that's why there's a lot of kids today who have these kinds of problems, because they're just not in a space where they have that guide figure, that Hecate figure, the one who can actually kind of light the way through the darkness and say, nah, this is what it's really about. And if you just keep going, you're going to eventually be out of it, right? There's the old expression, if you're going through hell, keep going, right? I mean, it's not a matter of stopping and regressing. We do sometimes want to escape when we're really, and I don't think there's anything wrong with doing that from time to time. I mean, maybe more incorporating ideas of what we think of as escape, because I think escape implies that the life that we're living is somehow terrible and that we have to run away from it. And maybe for some people, their life is terrible. I mean, I'm not going to, I don't want to make it like everybody's just, everybody has a great life and doesn't recognize it. I mean, some people do have really terrible circumstances, but, and so, but there needs to be, it's like, how do you, in our day-to-day life, if we're not dealing with anything that's excessive, okay, no space to create personal myth. Yes. And it's, there needs to be, that's a good point, Pat, because there's definitely a sense of needing to develop personal myth. That's part of it. That's something that's been said over and over again. I mean, it was Matthew Arnold alluded to it in his Myth on the Future, and back in the Victorian era. And then there was also, of course, Joseph Campbell has said this too. And it's the idea that if somebody else, if you don't find your own path, if you don't carve your own path, somebody else will, well, as my one professor put it, would shove it down your throat. You know, there'll be somebody who tells you, this is the way it's going to be, this is who you are, and this is the only way you're going to be acceptable. And that's what I think we're all breaking away from. I think that's part of what this shift is. It's just kind of like, no, who I am is important. And people respond to that in different ways. I think one of the things that gets people upset about, I'm gonna use the ugly, controversial woke word, right? Because that means different things to different people. And I say it's an ugly and controversial because on the one hand, woke could just mean that you're aware. You know, that you're aware of other people and other situations, and you're aware that not everybody is like you, okay? That's the positive side of it. The negative side often comes out when there's that process I talk about of demythologization. And again, I always talked about this in terms of what happens in the teen or adolescent years, but if development has been interrupted for some reason, this can happen at other points too. Or if certain things have been cut off from us, we may go through those developmental phases later. We may go through like another adolescence, so to speak, in the sense of we go into this rebellion and we get very, very angry. And I think when there's people who are in certain marginalized communities, they can feel very, very angry and hateful towards everybody who is, you know, who's not, you know, you're all the enemy and you victimized me kind of thing. And again, it's not to suggest that that these things don't happen, that there have not been groups and communities that have been victimized and that have legitimate gripes about that. But if your identity is predicated on the victimhood, then it's just kind of like, okay, but at what point are you going to rebuild from that? It was like the story I always tell of Philoctetes, which is the Sophocles. He's a character in in the Trojan saga, but he's also he's basically left. He accidentally walks into a sacred precinct of Athena, gets bitten by a serpent. His leg gets like gangrene. It's like, and it smells. It smells really awful. So his shipmates end up dumping him on an island at Odysseus's request. Odysseus is kind of his name does mean trouble. So Odysseus is kind of like this trickstery figure. But he gets left on this island, and of course he's furious. He hates Odysseus. He's angry as all you know what, and because he's just been abandoned by his shipmates. It's like okay, you got hurt. That's inconvenient for us. Bye. But then they come back when the prophecy says, no, you need him because he has the armor of Heracles. That's the only way you're going to win the war. So they go back to find him. But then Odysseus sends Achilles' son is like, why don't you go talk to him because he's not going to really want to see me. But then there's the whole back and forth when Philoctetes recognizes that they've just come for his armor, and they want to bring him back as well because the prophecy says he is going to play a pivotal role. He will be healed by Asclepius and then play a pivotal role in ending the war. But there's this back and forth because it starts with Odysseus saying, "Look, you're going to come with us," and he's like, "No, I'm not. I hate you." I kind of like goes off. And so then Odysseus goes, fine. Okay, you know what? Then we're just going to leave you. You're just going to take the armor and we're just going to leave you here. And he's just like, you're not going to leave me here. And it's like literally this back and forth. No matter what he says, it's like he has to say the opposite. Until finally the chorus jumps in and says, look, at this point, you're creating this problem. Okay, okay, yes, were you wronged? Yes. Do you have a right to be angry? Yes. But now there is a window for you to fix the whole thing, to actually to experience actual healing, to be in this mix. And are you going to continue to live in the past and the wound? He's gotten to tell Odysseus what a pick the curse words that you like there about what he is. And Odysseus gets his own comeuppance in different places too. I mean, if you read the Odyssey, he has his own ordeals, and but all of these characters are representing this kind of tricky way in which we interact with each other as humans. So there is the thing that happens there, but then Philoctetes so finally Heracles himself appears, and says to him, because Heracles is dead, but he's like a god and he's also in the underworld, but that's a separate discussion. Heracles appears to him and just says, look, get up and go. It's like the Go-Go song, right? Just get up and go. Just, don't sit here any longer. Now, you now have an opportunity to not be stuck in this place. Now, take it and move on. Even if it means you're kind of negotiating with somebody you don't like. And so, of course, he does go at that point, and his wound is healed, and he does end up playing a pivotal role in the war against the Trojans. So there's this whole thing of everybody gets wounded at some point. And the question is, are you going to identify with who you are uniquely and let that shine, or are you just going to identify with that as a wounded and angry person? And again, I think there's always a period of time where people do feel that way, and I'm not saying that isn't legitimate, but if that's going to define your entire life, then, I don't know. To me, there's got to be a point of kind of integration. Yeah, good question. And at what point do we kind of move on from that drama? Because again, remember, it's a drama. It's a role you're playing. You're acting it. How long are you going to act this scene before you move on to the next act? And again, we're always going to be kind of going back and doing the emotional cleanup on that. But part of that has to do with the fact that we, a lot of times, don't have guidance. We have to kind of figure it out on our own. So we may deal with these phases for maybe a lot longer than that we intended. So I don't know. So that's where the back and forth is on that kind of thing. Now, what I want to do before I go too much farther into this to my ramble, I thought that because we are technically at the Celtic New Year, okay, because Samhain or Halloween, however you want to couch it, and Diwali, this is the New Year. So I thought a New Year reading would be good. And I always use these guys for my big readings. So being that we're at Samhain, okay, so now that we're being asked to end a cycle and to move into a new one, why don't we see what the kind of the general tenor is that we're looking at for the next year. And I'm not going to do this like a month by month reading like I will do for people like birthday readings. I'll often say, okay, here's what's happening the next month, the next month, the next month. This is just going to be general astrological spread. And so let's see what's going on. What generally do we need to know here? Moving into this new year, moving into this new energy that the Scorpio new moon is going to introduce. So let's see what we've got here. Okay. Let me just move my my pendulum over here. Okay. Okay. Okay, so let's see what we have. I wish I could... I'll try to pick them up one at a time and show you. Okay, so with Aries energy in the first house, we have Sirius. Okay, Sirius is the card of Aquarian energy. Okay, it's about doing something new. Okay, it's about new ideas. It's about flexing the muscle of our identity. What are we leaning into? Who are we, and thinking differently about who we are. This is often a card of strength, and sometimes it's a card of physical strength. I've often said that the Sirius energy that we see around the 8/8 Lionsgate kind of time is an energy that's kind of an initiatory energy. It tests and it challenges us, and it says, how are you going to look? How are you going to look at things in their height and their depth? There's kind of a hanged man energy to this card. Okay. So Sirius says that we are being challenged to think differently about ourselves and about our role and about what our stories are. Okay, that's definitely the thing. Now in the financial sector, which is the second house, Taurus, we have Ta. So again, Ta is about lessons. It's about building. This is Capricorn energy. So this is contending with that Capricorn vibe in the second house. How do we, as I mentioned, as we already did the live stream on what are the positive aspects of Capricorn, right? How do we take the lessons of Capricorn and apply them to our values and to the meaning of gain in our lives? How does this apply to the way that we understand our own abundance and the way in which we approach things? As I've mentioned, it's not that we don't have to work for things. It's not like saying, oh, well, now nobody has to work. But, thinking about how we're going to do that differently. How are we going to work differently? How are things going to be, how are we going to re-envision work? What's our value around that? You know, how is that going to change? Now, if I look at the third house, which is Gemini energy, Gemini has to do with, obviously, third house is communications, messages, right? Can be commerce, business, sibling relationships, all that kind of stuff is third house, right? Now we have water here. So water has to do with flow. Now this is also a house of short-term travel or short-distance travel. Sometimes this card comes up when there is a significant journey. This being that water is here, I sometimes see this as journey to water specifically, especially in this particular house. In the ninth house, I tend to see it as a journey kind of across water. Could be either way. But then there's this idea in the house of messages. Remember, Mercury is air. So this is water coming in. So this is bringing feeling into things. This is bringing feeling into our business. It's bringing feeling into our interactions with others. Bringing the emotional component in. Letting that flow rather than having that space be like blocked up and be stagnant. Water has to do with flow. So when things have not been moving, there's a suggestion here that things are going to move. And this could be something that's very emotional. Could be a very emotional time for a lot of people, because as the heart opening takes place, we may be communicating a lot of that. You know, there's this opening and this communication of what's in the heart space. Now in our fourth house, which is Cancer energy, this has to do with home, family, and, I always have this, in the morning I always wake up with this, like, right here, no matter what I've done the night before to keep that from happening, so. Okay, we have Crook and Flail here. Okay, so Crook and Flail has to do with a few things. Fourth house to me has a lot to do with security, and kind of the first thing that jumps into my mind when I see this card is respecting your own authority, being confident in yourself, having a certain degree of self-discipline, okay, because Crook and Flail has to do with the way in which we, again, it's very similar to Ta in the sense that there's the sense that we are building something for ourselves. But this is also the card of authority, of being on the right side of authority. So I think there was a conversation I was having the other day about the way in which we feel sometimes that people are, I don't know if how many people have experienced this, but like right now I feel like there's a time where you're always worried, like, oh my God, did I offend, like we seem to be more worried than normal about how other people perceive us. Okay, we may feel that as people are going through things, we may be getting the signals of like, oh my God, did I make that person mad? Is there this and that? This is more of a kind of like not, recognizing there's an element of justice to this, right? Being in fairness, being in the right place, being right-minded. And this is what we're seeing in the fourth house. Oh, yes. So this is about being right-minded. It's about being confident. It's also about raising your visibility. So, Crook and Flail always implies kind of this raise in status. So again, this is showing up in the family and home sector. So what that means for people here, don't know. I don't know if that means increased visibility within the family, an increased understanding of family dynamics and maybe what your place is in them. But there's definitely this idea of being seen, of having a raise in status or having a reason to be confident in who you are. As a card of security, I would say it would be saying like you have to believe in yourself, okay? That you are putting the work in, and that you can trust, trust this kind of authority that you have. Trust the person that you are becoming. Now, fifth house, we have this is Leo energy. So this is creativity. It can be love affairs for some people. It can be children. It can have to do with children. Sometimes it has to do with sports, recreation. There's a lot of things at the Leo house, but the Leo house is also, it's ruled by the sun. It's also a card of recognition. We have air, okay? Now, I think this is interesting because I know a number of people here are going to be doing creative projects, like for this class, but there's definitely an element of creative writing with this one, or creative speaking. And again, that doesn't necessarily mean everybody on this live stream or anybody who sees this after is going to start writing, but there's definitely this push towards creative communication. Now, as far as love goes, I mean, for people who are looking for love, and I don't know that anybody's falling into that category here, but this is more about the idea of This is a more detached card. Like I said, it's air, so it's more about developing friendships maybe rather than romantic relationships. Could also be communications and stuff around somebody's children and so forth. There's but again, this is another, just like we have water over here. These are fast moving cards. Water having more to do with the heart, and this having more to do with the intellect and what we're doing with the intellect. So I feel this is more of a card of creativity and expressing that. Like we're talking a lot about the throat chakra, right? And about the Vishuddha chakra and how we are opening it up. So this, I think, is a little bit more about how we are expressing ourselves creatively in this next year. The 6th house of Virgo, this is where we have health matters. This can be about our job, if you work a job. It can be about the things that we have worry and anxiety about. And what's interesting here is we have Osiris. Now, this is Sagittarius energy. But it does have more of a vibe of the Emperor, so there's a little bit of Aries energy in it too. And Osiris is just about finding your footing. So if it's a number 1 card here. So if we're moving into a new space, I think there's an element here of trying to find out what our footing is, trying to find our center point. This is a jet, they call it. It's a stylized tree in ancient Egypt, and it basically shows being solid, being able to rely on your own judgment, feeling stable, not feeling like everything is changing. Because we have been going through a lot of change, and I think probably a lot of us are concerned about, are we going to find that anchoring or that mooring? But like I said before, sometimes finding that mooring is not looking for the moments when everything is just going your way, but where does that anchoring exist within you? Because when it exists within you, you can manage pretty much everything else that's going on around you. And it also, for people with health concerns, this definitely indicates a stability in health and strong health. So that's definitely a good thing. Libra energy. Okay, this is relationships, usually, and then that can be anything from marriages and committed partnerships to business arrangements and contracts. Okay, so it's a lot of different stuff. And we have Sphinx here. So for some people, this could be secrecy. It could be somebody... This often has to do with a secret or something that somebody keeps a secret. So if you are looking for a long-term relationship, there could be just somebody who is, I don't know, hanging back, remaining passive. For some people, depending on where this shows up, sometimes I say, well, this is like the secret admirer card, right? Like there could be somebody watching and just not, or being in your presence and just not saying anything. It can also indicate learning more things, that are uncovering more things about your partner. Okay, the partner who may have been silent about certain things. There may be a sense of watch and see what's happening here. So if there is relationship situations, this may be a case of watching and seeing what's happening there with a partner. Like, just as you are becoming a new person, they may be as well. Okay. So yeah, there's a wait and see energy. I don't see this. I mean, sometimes Sphinx can show up depending on if I pull a secondary card, whether or not it has to do with somebody who's doing something secret. But I don't really get that vibe here. I get more of it's like there's an uncovering. There's things that when we're in our partnerships, we have to kind of listen and allow the other person their space to speak. Okay, our house of transformation, we have Isis. There's the feminine in the 8th house, right? Okay, that's the house of where we're transforming to. And this is a space of caring. This is a space of caring about others, about feeling compassion for others. It's also a space of having compassion for ourselves, because I've always said that's really the key, is that frequently we don't love ourselves. I mean, there may be things we love about ourselves, but if somebody pays you a compliment and you might go, oh yeah, well this, we always kind of have a thing where we want to put a negative on it, because we're always very, very self-critical, because we're taught that to look at ourselves and say, wow, I love myself, is somehow egotistical or narcissistic. And narcissism is not self-love. Narcissism is actually self-hate, self-loathing. So therefore there's this need to project this fake reality on everybody around you, and then attack as the wounder the people that you're wounding. Like narcissism has more to do with actually self-loathing. This is about authentic self-love, and this comes from that feminine space, because again, we have water down here. We're connecting more with that heart space. In the 9th house of Sagittarius energy, this is about where we are expanding our horizons. Now, Jupiter's retrograde right now, and this is the house of Jupiter, but Jupiter will be going direct. And this is about the wisdom and about what we learn. And we have the buckle of Isis here. So again, this is that birthing process. That is that period where we are doing the hard work. This is about our spirituality. This is about our, what we might be learning in higher education or continuing education. That's part of this house. Or maybe a long journey that some people will take, because this is the house of long distance travel. And there's the idea that the efforts that you are making in this realm are going to be rewarded. That you're going to see the child, so to speak, or the fruits of that labor. That this is a worthwhile, that anything that we are doing to expand our horizons is worthwhile. Yes, we may meet some obstacles at different points because of different things, but nonetheless, the work is worth it. Now, here's an interesting thing. Our 10th house, which is the Capricorn house, this has to do with our legacy and what remember I talked about the 10 of Pentacles energy, the legacy that we're leaving for people. And we have Nepothys here. This is Piscean energy showing up in the house of this. And this is the card of unknowing. This is the card of the mystery. This is what we don't know yet. And I think it's interesting that we also have an unknowing card in the 7th house of Libra. Because remember, we're talking a lot about how this is about coming into relationship and coming into partnership and working with others, because this is what you're giving back to the community. And there's this unknown factor here. There's like something that's going to be uncovered and revealed. And it's something that's learned, and just like the Isis card also implies, more from an intuitive space than one where we tie ourselves up in mental knots. Okay? This is one where we can, that is literally what I'm getting. Like the thing you want to give up this Samhain is give up control, in the sense of give up our need to be in control of the outcome, to be in control of certain situations. And even in terms of our destiny, if we have a place that we're going, I'll just give myself as an example. Everybody knows I want to move overseas. But there's a lot of pieces that have to fall into place, because it's not like you can't just pick up and move. People say, oh, just pick up and go. And I'm like, yeah, well, if I had a ton of money, I could just pick up and go away for 6 months. But I don't have a ton of money, and I used to have enough money to be able to do that. Now I don't work that kind of a job, and that is what it is. So it's like, okay, so if that's part of where I'm going, if that's part of what I'm offering, how is that going to come to be? Well, more to come, more to be revealed here. So rather than continually racking my brain over and going in circles over what I can do or what I can't do, it's like, just leave a space for that to come in, People may be feeling that about their career. People may be feeling that about other aspects of their life and work. Oh, wow. Yeah, Sam's saying, oh, wow. Yeah. So there's this energy of, Nepothys is that which is not quite revealed. She's Isis's sister in Egyptian mythology. And they both kind of deal in this underworld space. So it's kind of like, wait to see the mystery that's going to be uncovered, or chikle, as the angels like to say. That's their word for mystery. Okay, let's look at the 11th house. This is your Aquarius house. This is about your friendships. This is about your social networks. This is about who you are, what you're trying to manifest. Okay, and as we know, this is kind of forward thinking. We have Hathor. Okay, again, another strongly feminine card. Okay, so this could be the females around us who are supporting us, or it could even be a specific female for certain people. But strong feminine energy here. And feminine energy is it's really about making a home. You know what I mean? It's about, in the meaning of this particular card, and when I say that, it's not like necessarily being like, some little domestic goddess, although, maybe it is that for some people. It's more about the way in which we feel at home and feel comfortable with our friends, with our network, with our tribe, with our community, and the way in which we reach out to each other in the way of the feminine, not in the way of the masculine, which tends to keep more of a distance. You know what I mean? It's more of the idea that we're going to find support in this Aquarian space, and this Aquarian space is moving into something that's very, very feminine here. Hathor is kind of like the uber feminine card in this deck, but like I said, we've got actually the 3 uber feminine cards. We've got Isis, we've got Nepothys, and we've got Hathor. So the idea that we're moving into this feminine space, and that taking this kind of approach, and we've talked about what it means to think femininely as opposed to thinking like, in a masculine rule-based, it's got to be within this, it's got to be either or, how does it fit into the rules? How does it this? It's more like, well, what's the third option? This is the way that we're being called on to think about things. And then finally, our 12th house of Pisces. Well, not finally, I have a center card too, but Pisces is where we This is where we have our imagination and our dreams, but also where we have self-doubt, okay, because it kind of is both. And yeah, funnily enough, we have the Earth card here. It's almost like there's a reversal. The Pisces card is in the 10th house, and the card that probably represents Capricorn better is in the 12th house. So this is what's moving into shadow. This is what's moving out, and where maybe we are still going to have concerns, where we're going to say, well, if I'm making this big change, if I take a job that makes less money, or if I don't put my focus on money and making that my priority, what's going to happen to me? Is my security going to fall apart? Am I not going to have what I need? And so on and so forth. So these may be worries that we have. These may be areas where we're not clear on how things are going to go. At the same time, Earth also has to do with, again, understanding the real value of the material world and planting seeds. So in the 12th house, this is that fertile ground for the imagination, for to create. Again, there's this whole thing about creating something solid in this very feminine space. And remember that the Earth is very much feminine. So this is kind of what's taking root here. There's this sense of building security in a new way and thinking about things in a new way. And overall, we have Anubis. Okay, so Anubis is our guide. Anubis is our guide through the underworld, right? This is our guide through through that initiatory space. Anubis is the guide in Egyptian mythology. He's certainly one of them. And this, again, this is about being protected. And I think that's the overall message here. We're again, figuring out Anubis, my fave guy. Yeah, it's funny. There's a lot of Anubis fans out there. He's definitely, when we were talking about the Santa Muerte, or we're talking about the connection to Aztec mythology, the guide for the soul and its journey for at least the first part of it is a dog. There's a dog that will guide them through their space. So we have Anubis here. So this is also about maintaining proper boundaries, okay? Maintaining, not letting people come in and take over your space and tell you who to be. But at the same time, it's about reaching out. This is a card of negotiation. What is the right way to negotiate that boundary? What is the right way to negotiate our relationships? But it also assures us that we're protected in the process. It also assures us that we are not delusional, okay? Because this is a card that when we are feeling like, I don't know, like, is this real? Am I just, am I having a midlife crisis? Is this going on? Is that going on? This is saying no. You can be sure, you can be solid in the decisions that you're making, okay? So that is our kind of, that's good to know. Yeah, well, yeah, exactly. Because a lot of times we still have that aspect of mind that we wants to second guess. And I will throw in a really quick one with these. We've got 2 minutes left to the live stream. I think I can do that. And just get a quick view of what the Zen deck has to say for us for this, coming up. Yeah, okay. Oh, look at this. Here we go again, right? Okay. Clinging to the past is the first card, right? That's what the challenge is right now. There's literally the message I got was this morning, move into joy, but that means letting go. Letting go of the past. I had like the 8 of Cups, and I had, what was the other card? The Knight of Wands, actually. Kind of get moving, And the inner feeling of which we are unaware is that we are moved by, this is the card of Source. Okay? This is what's actually moving us. And that's why we can trust where we're going, because we are being guided at this point. I think probably most people who are doing the work, we're guided by Source, and we don't want that other little voice to come in and, make static. The Sun, there is a Sun kind of energy here. Yeah, but I feel like it's almost like this is a fire card, okay, because it's Ace of Wands. So it's almost like it's like a fire radiating out from the center. There's something in Rahani known as Helios Investa, and that is this idea that in your solar plexus, there is actually this sun, and that it radiates outward. Okay, got it. Yeah, that's kind of what that energy is. And that's also the energy that heals us as well. The external feeling of which we're aware, we're on an adventure, baby. We got this Page of Pentacles again. You're on an adventure, okay? So yeah, new vision. This is exactly like what the first card we got in the cartouche, right? Seeing everything in its heights and its depths. And ultimately, dropping this split between the head and the heart. Because ultimately, it's not about choosing between the head and the heart. It's about how do those two things work together, okay? So this is the message. How do we get the head and heart to work together? Part of this has to do with letting go of the past and allowing Source to inform us, not that part of our brain or our mind or whatever, excuse me, that makes us second guess and question everything that we're doing, okay? And being it's the Celtic New Year, should draw a rune, right? Yeah, Dorisaz, okay? This is the rune. This is a Hecate rune. This is a gateway rune. This is about being at the gate and what we are contemplating and releasing before we pass through the gate. So we're getting ready to pass through this gate, okay? That's what Dorisaz represents. So now I'm coughing, so I know my guides are telling me that I'm done for the day, but in any case, give me a minute. All of a sudden, and from the left side. Thank you guys so much for joining me today. Have a great Samhain. Have a great New Year. I know I'll see, at least Pat, I think I'll see you tonight. And everybody else, whatever you're doing for Samhain or for Diwali or for whatever we're doing, I hope you have an excellent celebration. I hope you get to have this release of the past and this good moving into this new space that we are about to experience for as we move into November. And and I realize this is a very tense time collectively, but it's saying you're moving into a space of joy. So you're welcome. And so yeah, all of you have a very good day, and I will see everybody. I'll be back tomorrow morning, and happy Samhain. Yep. And yeah, and like I said, I'll see Pat. I'll see you tonight, and everybody else. Anybody who sent me messages, I will look you up. Oh, thank you very much, Sam. It's I think everybody here is the best, actually. But thank you. Bye, everybody, and yeah. So I'll see you guys tomorrow morning. Take care.